But we do have some really important people in the audience. Superintendent Jack Cross, Principal Carrie Hagnes, Board of Ed member Phil Williams, and then our wonderful parents and teachers that are members. And those who aren't, so welcome. Tom Messino is also here. Tom is one of our wonderful delegates. State representative, and he has 2 pieces of information you might want to take as take-homes when you leave. So if you want to pick one up, they're his sharing. I am Andrea Rue, and tonight's session is being taped. As a new feature that we're doing for the PTA, for those members who are not able to come, we are putting the audio and perhaps the video link on our website so that parents can refer to it when they're not able to attend. Do we want to pass around some of the meeting agendas for this evening? We do not require approval of minutes because September we had a speaker, an author speaker, and in October we had our forum. So we will not have to do that this evening. Each meeting I do an acknowledgement, and this month I would like to acknowledge our board members for the Clinton PTA, both our old ones and our new ones, and also all those people who work behind the scenes. Laura, Al, Kim, Faye, and Melissa, just to name a few. We really are nothing without every single person's contribution, so thank you very much. We do have to, as a method of business this evening, have to approve our 2013-2014 budget. So Val and I is going to do a real quick overview, and then we'll take a quick vote for approval or disapproval, and then we will go forward with the panel. Thank you all for bearing with us.
I don't know if I have enough copies for everybody, but I'm passing it around. We went through a preliminary budget about a month ago, and this is what we came up with based on some historical numbers. So you'll see the membership revenue broken out as far as how many people we anticipate being members, and you know, there's different rates. Teachers and students get a different rate than individuals and families, but you do get a discount for being a family member. And then we do have a business sponsorship program too, so we budget for a few of those. And historically, we've had a fundraiser doing the Roses for Autism that has generated some money. And then we have some very generous parents who a lot of times donate certain gifts in kinds and you know, donate actual money to cash to fund our speaker programs. So that's a line item there. And then you'll see there's a transfer from reserve funds, and that's pretty much a plug. So we do have a reserve at the bottom, and you know, we kind of go through and we identify what our expenses are and our anticipated revenue. And the reason, normally, historically, we haven't had a transfer of reserve funds, but the reason we did it this year is because we did have money set aside for speakers. The peg tire speaker who was actually paid out of this year's budget. So she's part of the speaker expense at the bottom, but you know, the revenue came in a prior year, so that's what's causing that. I apologize for getting too technical, but that's why that's there. And then you'll see the expenses we broke down between things that were required to spend, and then certain supplies, marketing, and then what is really our core mission, which you could see is mostly for speakers, the Reflections program, some marketing, getting people to the meetings, and the book read that we have during the summer. And then our cash balance at the bottom. So, any questions?
May I have a motion to approve the budget? And second? All in favor? Members? Any opposed? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So, tonight's panel is at a request of a parent, and thought it might be interesting that at each school level we start to explore and get to learn some of our offerings and our department people, so we know what is going on. So that's how this all started, and forgive the informality of this, and up to you if you guys want to each take a turn, or if you want to have a general question posed and a couple of you answer. Not sure how you'd like to proceed.
I want to go before Paul.
Okay.
Paul says it's going to be way better.
Okay,
So
the
I don't
way
care when I go.
the way I had proposed it to the chairs is, so these are our Morgan High School department chairs. And we had asked each of them to share a little bit about their personal feelings of what they're proud of, what they're looking forward to, and what's going on in their department and the way they're teaching. So why don't we just do that, and then after the first like 45 minutes or so, after everybody's had a chance to speak, we thought we might just break out into different areas so that you can ask personal questions one-on-one to that department area. Okay? Chris?
Oh, I'm.
You are first.
That's what gets my joke. My name is Chris Luther, and I've been at Morgan for, this is my 18th year. I know it's hard to tell. But the gray's coming in. I love it here. I feel like it's my community. I'm glad to see that Dana's here, and she's going to ask me nice things. Anyway, in science department, some of the things we're proud of is I think that in our, I've seen growth in the department, and one of the things is that when I go to the different classes and look around, I get the sense that all of our teachers, and I know from talking to them, just know that science is doing. And to me, that's what you should see in a science lab. You should see the kids up and about and moving and excited about things. It should be a little bit noisy, and there should be a lot of gear out and equipment, and so that's what I'm really proud of in our department. For the second question, it has something to do with preparing students for the future. I like to think that a lot of the labs that we do, and certainly I've seen an evolution towards inquiry labs that the kids don't know the outcome. Sometimes I don't know the outcome. I know it's going to be safe, but I don't know exactly what's going to happen. Sometimes we're looking for nematode rooms in the back of the school and we don't find any, but I tell the kids that's okay. If I knew the answers, then it wouldn't be real science. So I like to think that we're challenging the students to think about the world in which they live, and that's real life, where you're given a problem at work and they're left to figure out how to answer it, what resources they have. We like to do a lot with technology and using the computer labs as a way to investigate and prep for labs. We do collaborate a lot. We work on projects together, and I think that collaboration, as you guys know from being working adults, that you got to be able to collaborate with each other and work with each other. So one of the questions that kind of came to me through the email for this panel was about old-fashioned just talking with people, not so much the texting and the tweeting and so I think if you come to a science class, you'll see that genuine old-fashioned collaboration where kids are talking and hey, pass me that bucket as they're out in the Indian River, I need to get these. And so I think that we are a mix of old and new school collaboration. For the year, we're working, of course, on this big junior portfolio, which you've heard about, and Paul's the master of all that he'll probably tell you about. But for our PLP, our little growth plan in science, it's reading in the technical areas for the Common Core. So all of our PLPs in the department are working towards that, giving kids articles that they would read. And
PLP is?
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Personal learning plan? Personal learning plan. Professional learning plan. That happens to be very personal. And so I call it the PLP. And
Good save.
my boss is here. And I'm on camera. That's great. So for this PLP, we're trying to get the kids to, when they read an article, then to understand what the author, is there any bias? Is the author using the correct data to support their claim? Is there, which to me is critical thinking, and my liberal arts education, I think served me well, and that's what I want them to think outside the box, and hey, does this person have a reason that they're trying to sell this product? Are they skewing the data? Is there enough there? So we're working on that in our departments. For the new school, I'm excited that, I think that it's going to sound super corny, nobody's going to make fun of me, but I feel like the awesomeness happens here at Morgan, and I'm glad that being a person that I consider myself from this town, even though I don't live here, I've been here a long time, the awesomeness on the inside will match the awesomeness on the outside. It'll look like, you guys will be proud of it, it'll be a cornerstone for the community, and I know great things happen, there's great teachers, but now it'll look like it to all those people that drive by from Madison or Guilford.
Will it provide anything new for the sciences?
The labs, you know, when I say should, I mean we spend a lot of time investing with the architect. They should be terrific for the kids, state of the art. We think that they're going to be safe and really foster more of this inquiry type learning. A new thing is also STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. So like, what is the product you're going to come up with, or being mindful of the end result, a practical purpose. So we think that those labs will be equipped to do that. We're in a little bit of a weird position because I think it was '99 that we renovated. So I know that seems like a long time ago, but our labs currently are pretty good. But they're going to be even better, you know, the way that they're going to be set up is going to promote collaboration, and so they should be terrific. And some of the technology and how they're integrated in the labs, you know, we're still working through, but I imagine that's going to be outstanding as well. You know, for the, am I doing the right thing?
You are,
by the way?
so doing the right thing.
All right, so now I'm on question number 5. So the next question that came to me was, how have we built a model of collaboration at Morgan? I mean, we have very young and exciting administrators that have an open door policy that really treat the kids with respect, and you know that type of model or role model that they set then kind of permeates throughout the department. So we work, I mean, in our science department, we're the best. We hang out with each other, we collaborate. So, and I don't know, if you come by at lunch, you'll see English teachers in my room eating, and it's a nice environment here. I don't know, I think that the thought of the new school and the different academies, I think that's the intention there, is to even you know, foster even more collaboration. Like, there won't be a separate wing for history and a separate wing for English. Everything will be based on grade levels. You could say, hey, I know you're in the 9th grade wing, so you have such and such a student. Help me out. How can we better reach this kid? So hopefully that'll be something that will really be great. And I have to get back to you on that one. What do we wish that you knew about us as teachers? It's hard to reach every single kid every day. I mean, there's 24 kids. They all have different things. Sometimes they're up and they're down. You know, because they live at your house. So think of 24 of those kids on any given day, to engage them, to get them excited, to grade all their stuff, to enter it, for you guys to check 5 minutes later in Power School, to see the tears in the hallway when they have an 89 and they want a 90. You know, you're really managing a lot of personalities, 100 or so a day, and it's hard. I mean, I love what I do. I think that sometimes people would say, oh, you can just give them some dittos. And it's not. I'm exhausted. I'm basically drenched with sweat all day. You know, so if I don't raise my hands a lot, because I don't know what's going on, but I'm dancing around, I've got all this equipment and gear and Mimeo pads, and kids are saying, you know, in the hallway, can you put this grade? Did you put the grade? Are you going to do the grade? Or what's going on? What's the project do? You're just like, it's hectic in an awesome way, because I'm never bored. I look up, I'm like, are you kidding me? The bell's ringing at the end of the day. So it's busy, and we love it, and we care about your kids, and we try real hard.
So I have to give Chris Luther a plug, because I am the most unscientific person you'll ever meet your entire life. And I had the luxury of sitting in on his class for literally 10 minutes one day. And in those 10 minutes, he taught one concept 3 different ways. And when he got to the 3rd way, I got it. So I got to tell you, that's pretty fast answering and pretty impressive stuff.
Thank you.
So thank you. And how about we'll let Miss Laura Luther go next, in case you guys haven't figured out. Yeah. They're related.
You have to follow. You will
That's
follow.
right.
I don't know. I'm the more serious Luther.
Is that right?
I teach world language. I teach Spanish specifically. I've been here for 16 years. I've been teaching for 19 years. I have 1 year extra on him, so that's I'm smarter Luther too. Not really. Just kidding. What am I most proud of here at Morgan? Well, first of all, I'm probably most proud of the women that I teach with every day in my department. They constantly challenge themselves to step outside of their comfort zones to engage the students in meaningful and purposeful learning. They're not just passing out dittos. They're not just putting on a video. They are actively engaging the students every single day in the target language. We offer Spanish, Chinese, and French. Chinese is a critical language. Not many areas, not many school systems offer it. We have Chinese 1, 2, and 3. We are fortunate to have a superintendent who believes in the program and wants to see it grow. It's very exciting to watch our new Chinese teacher teach. She is about 5 feet tall and 90 pounds soaking wet, and she is excited and enthusiastic and just so into bringing new things into the classroom. So that's very exciting for your sons and daughters to have the ability to take that as a class.
Do we find a lot of students are electing to do that?
We are really starting to grow it. We've had some issues with enrollment and miscommunication, but we are really targeting the middle school in order to have it grow. Like I said, Mr. Cross is very supportive of it growing, so it's a part-time position right now. We really would like to see it go full-time and try to get something going in the middle school as well. Because as all of you know, we have a Spanish K-12 program, and not just because I'm a Spanish teacher and I think it's fabulous, it truly is fabulous, because the importance of learning a second language in the younger years is so beneficial. It's so much easier. Your children's brains are sponges. They accept it so much more quickly than they would even at this age, at 14, 15, 16. So the foundation that they are getting at Joel and Pearson is just huge for when they come up here, and the possibilities to take different classes, it's just absolutely amazing. You guys are so fortunate to live in a district that has a K-12 program. Chris mentioned that he had a liberal arts education, but he also has K-12 Spanish, and he, to this day, can speak Spanish, and he hasn't taken a class since freshman year in high school and college. Freshman year in college, so I mean, it really, if your children commit to the study of a world language and they own it, the possibilities are endless. And as you are familiar with our mission statement, it says in a global society. The global society is coming closer and closer and closer. You go to Clinton Crossing, you go to Dunkin' Donuts, you go to McDonald's, you go to the mall. You are constantly hearing different languages being spoken. And I would venture to bet the 2 most common around here are Spanish, Chinese. And we have those languages here at Morgan. So why go anywhere else? Your children are going to get a fabulous education in world language and in any subject area from the people that teach in this building. And that's what I'm most proud of. Also, we offer AP classes. We have a Spanish AP this year. For real, it was in the past called Advanced Spanish. It is now true AP. So that's another feather in our cap we're very excited about. In reference to the test taking, I really don't want to focus tremendously on that. We, as a Spanish department, have been having students take the AP test without being in a true AP class for the last several years. They have taken it, they have passed it, they have earned college credit. Our average is pretty good. We'd like to see it go higher, but every student that has taken Spanish 5 or AP Spanish and gone off to college and taken tests to see where they should place into their college language class has either waived their requirement or placed into an intermediate class. That is so cool. That is huge. And think about it, the almighty dollar. They don't have to take a beginner class, they can go right into an intermediate class, then they can go take a different class that really interests them later on. Saving money all around. We like that. Like I said, we have the K-12 program. We work closely with all of the world language teachers in the district. We have K-12 vertical articulation. We spend a great deal of time meeting and refining and revising and editing our curriculum from bottom to top and top to bottom. So we all really work very well together. Thank you. So we have a tremendously strong world language program, not only here at Morgan, but throughout the district. What are we doing to prepare students for the future? I really already addressed that. In a global society, we're teaching them language skills that will not only help them in college, but will help them in their job, their chosen job or profession when they graduate. what's our vision, what's our mission? Our mission is to create lifelong language learners, but really, let's be realistic, that's hoity-toity, that's flowery language. I want my students to leave my room, go across the street to Clinton Crossing where they work, and help a Spanish-speaking client, and feel good about it. That's what we want, that's our mission, that's what we want them to do. To not just use it in the classroom, but to use it in real life. What are we excited about in regards to the new school? To echo what Chris said, the new school will match the people finally that are in the building. And we truly believe that, yes, it's going to be fabulous to look at, but the people that are inside of it are what make it special. So we're excited about the new equipment and the new technology and the new aesthetic to it, the looks. It's going to be beautiful. We are also looking forward to using computers that are really 21st century and have video capability, and we can record and we can do e-pals and just really connect with those other Spanish speakers, Chinese speakers, and French speakers out there. And a plug for French. French might not sound so popular nowadays, but it is truly an amazing thing that we are still able to offer French, and that is because of Mrs. Hagnes and Mr. Cross, that they still believe in that, so that's excellent. Collaboration, we collaborate every day. We all eat lunch together just like the science department does. We don't speak in Spanish, French, or Chinese, so if you'd like to come by, you are welcome to come anytime you want. We have junior portfolio meetings, we have department meetings, we pick each other's brains every single day on, what are you doing, how can I help this kid, what's new, did you see that YouTube video? It's just constant talk back and forth of how to get better. And finally, what do we wish as educators that you all knew? This is the toughest job that you can ever have. And we love it. So thank you for letting us come and speak to you tonight. And yes, if I nod off, just thank you.
Awesome, thank you, Lauren. How about we go to the other end of the table?
Sure. I'm Jeff Motter. I taught at the Millbrook School in New York for 10 years, and I came here in 2001. I wrote responses to my homework from the principal. In no particular order, what I'm most proud of. This one is number one. It's alums who move on to college and flourish there. Feedback that indicates that a certain course or teacher really made a difference. It's always great to hear. Number two is department work to date on the junior portfolio and common assessments. Teamwork and collaboration in the department in general is very good. Three, and this is a nod to Mike Graham, who pretty much runs these programs. It's our ongoing mock trial and close-up programs, as well as the Honors World History Research Project out of Mystic every year. Number four, we have challenging and diverse electives, including psychology, introduction to criminal law, honors philosophy, AP US history, and AP European history. I have AP US history in bold because Diana Rizzo is doing an amazing job with it. Just pause for effect. It's amazing. And definitely deserves kudos. Regarding preparing students for the future, with a nod to John Adams, we believe that to read, think, speak, and write well is of the utmost importance and fundamental to a good education. In teaching both the matter and the manner of history and social studies, our students are equipped with the tools they need to excel beyond graduation. This includes close reading and analysis of sources, primary, secondary, tertiary, cultivation of research skills in general, appropriate scaffolding of those skills, regular formal and informal debates on topics historic and current, and projects and activities that encourage creative innovation and authentic real-world connections. In other words, engagement with the world we prize. As far as the mission, or what we're up to right now, I should say, we're putting the finishing touches on the grade 11 course, which is civics and contemporary global issues. Along with the rest of the school, we're promoting literacy in grades 9 through 12. In our case, that includes developing writing portfolios in grades 9, 10, and 11. Very exciting, we are planning for next year's new AP Government and Politics course. And we continue to update and add to junior portfolio assessments. The most fun part of this exercise is the next one, which the topic was exciting prospects about the new school. I made a little list. It could have been a long one. I tried to limit it to 5. Number 1 is natural light. Lots of it. 2, the beauty of the site itself, including an amphitheater outside, I hear. More comfortable furnishings for the students, tables and chairs, oh my. That's exciting. Better design for collaboration for faculty and for students for that matter. Improved technology. As far as collaboration within my department, we use common planning frequently. We have curriculum teams, for example, our work since 2007 on what has become the scope and sequence for grades 9 and 11, which we're finishing this year. What I wish parents knew, the positive feedback I get, and I'm sure other teachers at the school get, from their students, former students, regarding their experience at Morgan and how a teacher or a course made a difference. Number 2, we have some incredible teachers here who inspire students, and that's closely related to number 1. Thanks.
Question for you. Civics, what grade is that offered in?
11.
11.
Yes.
Big interest in that, or?
Well, it's a required course for the 11th graders.
Okay. And the AP government?
Yeah.
Economics? Is that
We don't have an economics course presently.
thinking, discussion, or?
Not yet. Right now, the discussion is on the AP Government and Politics course.
Okay, who would like to go next?
I'll go. I have a lot of things, but I think in the interest of time, I will not put through all of them, but I am now poised to underwhelm, thanks to Chris. I would say one of the things we're most proud of is the opportunities that kids have in the English department to collaborate with one another and to refine their thinking by bouncing their ideas off of one another. I mean, I come from a time period when you sat in desks and it was pretty much teacher focused and the teacher imparted or poured wisdom into your head. Now there are opportunities for kids to collaborate in all kinds of different ways, on wikis, on blogs, in journals, in classroom discussions, in think pair shares, in lit circles, all different kinds of ways for them to interact with each other and to bounce ideas off of each other and to refine their ideas by talking with one another. Well, I'm also very proud of the summer reading program. Speaking of back in the day, you got assigned one book, Silas Marner, Ethan Frome. You got that from the summer, and you took a quiz on the book. We now offer over 30 titles every summer for kids to choose from. The way that they're assessed is by participating in book chats with teachers on the faculty. So they have a lot of choice, and they have a more authentic way of showing what they did over the course of the summer, rather than just reading one book. And the books are basically like right off of the bestseller lists, nonfiction and fiction. So that also gives them a variety of choices. We are preparing students for the future. I guess I'll talk a little bit about the junior portfolio exhibition. One of the questions that was sent around by the email was how we're preparing them to speak, to two groups and to articulate their ideas, and that is pretty much what the junior portfolio does. I don't know how you are familiar with it, but every junior is going to have to present their progress on 7 skills to a panel of adults in March of their junior year.
Well, is this the first year? This is the first year
This
that
will
will
be
be
the first
done?
year that happens.
So for the students then that have been, they were told as freshmen that they were going to be the first class to be doing this.
Correct. And they will discuss skills, not grades. So they'll talk about how, how they are as a reader, a writer, a problem solver, or how creative they are, how well they use technology, how well they speak, and how well they can listen. So they'll have to talk about that. They'll have to show some evidence of their progress and of where they're standing. And they need to do that with a certain degree of confidence and speak persuasively and articulately about their progress.
And there's also a sense of, or a component of self-assessment.
Reflection.
Reflection that goes with that.
Thank you. And we are teaching students how to understand what they read. And that, I guess, leads to the next question, which is our focus. The school-wide focus is on literacy this year. And I think everyone's working towards that. I think one of the things that we're doing is breaking down that, like the sort of the how does one go about doing that? How does one help a kid understand what he or she reads? And then we're also assessing systematically and regularly their progress on reading comprehension skills. We're also doing more nonfiction because it's what the Common Core now requires is students to do not just fiction but nonfiction in language arts. So we're incorporating that more often into the curriculum.
Well, how do you feel the students are prepared coming from Elliott into Morgan when it comes to understanding what they're reading?
Well, that's a good question. I think, I guess the challenge of the material increases so much by the time you get to high school that I know they're very successful at doing what they do at Elliott. But I think because you are now getting sometimes college level text and text complexity increases so much and the ideas involved in the text increase so much that the challenges are much higher.
Is it the shift or is it just the continuum?
I think it's the continuum. I think that the challenges are real.
Yeah.
Let's see if I skipped that. What new learning opportunities will the new Morgan afford? Jeff talked about it sort of I asked my department members, and so one of the things they're going to be able to do in order to facilitate the process of collaboration is that the furniture is going to be more conducive to different kinds of configurations. I grew up in schools where every room had desks in rows, neat little rows. And again, it was because the teacher was imparting information, you sat there and took notes and then wanted that kind of control. Well, now we want student-centered and student-directed and students active and engaged. And in order to do that, sometimes you have to meet in groups of 4, sometimes someone's doing a panel like this, and it's going to be nice that the furniture can easily move around and you can group people in all kinds of configurations, all kinds of permutations. So that's very specific for the new Morgan, besides the technology. Our collaboration in the department, we have the junior portfolio required collaboration and also collaboration across the disciplines. The focus on literacy is requiring cross-disciplinary collaboration, and we are coordinating among teachers who teach the same level classes in the same subject, benchmarks and Common Core benchmarks, and scaffolded so that these are the ones we're going to focus on freshman year, these are the ones we're going to focus on sophomore year, these are the ones we're going to focus on junior year, and also the essential questions so that they'll be the same. What do I wish parents knew? I think, and in this response to one of the questions that came across in an email, is that the rigor is there at all levels. And there's some perception perhaps that college prep is not rigorous enough or challenging enough, but I think if you can now go online, and this is one of the nice things about Power School and about the websites, and you can see the syllabi, you can look at the curricula, and you can see the units, and you can see that the challenge is there. That in every level, that the materials, we have materials that are appropriate for certain levels, and we have tasks and activities that are appropriate for each level, but they are challenging. All of them are challenging, and I would say that, I guess that's what I want to say. The rigor is there, that all a student really needs to do is to avail him or herself of that opportunities that are there. I think you'd be pleasantly surprised if you look online. And I think if you're having an issue, you can now go on Power School and see, as Chris was saying, You can see every assignment and every grade, and if your child is not getting an A in CP in every single assignment or a 99 on the test, then it's not so much the rigor, it's that I am not availing myself of that rigor. It's like if I was going to run a marathon and I decided, okay, I'm going to walk the whole 26 miles. Well, that wasn't very hard, was it? But what you're doing then is, you know, if I'm going to run it, then it's going to be hard and rigorous and difficult. But if I'm just going to walk, then it's not going to be.
So is it, where do you think the perception comes from? Is it something that, have we shifted and the perception is still the old perception? Or is it that parents just don't, or the public, if you will, doesn't understand that this is there?
I think maybe the idea is that if a B minus C plus is all you're looking for, then you're coasting through and you're going to get the perception that there's no rigor there. But if you're working hard to achieve at the highest level and achieve those to the standards that are set there and are getting an A all the time, it's going to take a lot of hard work and effort.
Do you think that the students are, that there would be a better way to engage them, to get that they have to want that?
I think that engagement isn't entertainment, engagement is challenge, and I think the challenge is there. And I think, as Chris mentioned and everyone has talked about now, it's not sitting in desks anymore. It's so student-centered and so interactive. And if you just walk through the halls and look at what's going on in the classroom, it's so interesting and so exciting, really is.
I agree.
And it's just not the way it used to be. And I think a student just has to take advantage of what's there. Decide that I don't want to walk the marathon. I want to get in there.
To save you for a second, because I think the CP versus honors or the disparity between them, this has been since I was started here 18 years ago. Like, we've had these conversations, and like when Mr. Barney would bring it up at the meeting, I felt like he's not looking at my college prep grades because sometimes they were pretty low, and I'm like, what, you know? So I think that, I don't know why that is, but I don't remember a time when that wasn't brought up in some kind of parent conferences, and, but I just know individually, and when you walk around, I see college prep classes doing, like if I teach college prep, I teach honors too, they're doing the same engaging labs, like why would I not?
Yeah.
And when we started our curricular work with Mr. Cross, we have this canon of labs that every single biology student should do, regardless. And I do them the same way, so, you know, you remember talking about this before too?
Yeah.
It's all, I mean, for my whole time I've been here, so I don't know why.
Where it comes from.
Yeah.
I think we need to hear from one of the ladies.
Okay. Because I don't want to go last. So I'm Monica Deberardinis, I'm special ed chair. And so I'm not going to follow along with the question so much, but I want to tell you a little story. So when I first came here, it was, there were 3 resource teachers. We were all huddled in a little room. It was kind of off to the side. And when we had students that had issues for whatever the reason, and you know, they're struggling, obviously, it was just fix it. We don't want to know about it, just fix it. And we did the best we could to keep these kids with their heads above water. You know, they have obvious struggles. They have issues with reading. They have issues with writing. They have disabilities that keep them from being able to be on the level playing field with everyone else. But they still had to get their homework done, and they still had to get their papers written and all that. So that's what we did. And then, you know, in special ed, and I know everybody has a lot of paperwork, so it's not just special ed. We used to be able to have the right to complain about that the most. That's not the case anymore. But you get these piles of paper, and it's the new regulations, and it's the new this, and it's the new that. And I'll never forget the day I got this paper that started to speak about secondary transition, post-secondary transition. Oh, another thing we have to do, oh my God. And I'm writing out the paper and I'm looking at the questions, and one of the questions, you know, is, what does a student want to do for a career? Really, I have to go and ask this student what they want to do when they leave high school? And the light bulb went on for me. This is not what we're supposed to be doing. We're not supposed to be just dragging the kids along, and you know, it's like you're working so hard and you're doing this homework, it's homework help to some extent, but you're dragging the kids along. And then you get to that day where they finally graduate and you put them on the stage and you go, phew, they're out of here. Post-secondary transition, which is part of the, and I was kind of laughing about the alphabet soup. I mean, in special ed, we have all kinds of acronyms for everything, but the Disabilities Act laws in 2000, I think, 5, regulated that. Now we have to be paying attention to what is this kid going to do when they leave us. And we can't just dump them off at the end of the stage and say, thank God we're done. It's what are we going to do with these kids? What are these kids going to do once they leave here because they're not going to have us? And we joke, and the kids are like, oh, we're going to take you to college with us because they would love for that to happen. We don't go to college with them. So we really had to change everything about what we did. Because now it's like, okay, we need to make sure that these kids are going to have the tools to be independent so that when they walk across that stage, they're going to be able to go off. And not to say that there are no supports for them out in college and the real world, but a lot less than what they have here. And they need to really understand that. So one of the proudest things I think about my department is that I joke because trying to have a department meeting is almost like herding cats. It's nearly impossible. And not because there's anything wrong with that, but it's because my colleagues are now embedded in the different disciplines. They are part of the English department. We want to talk about what is our PLP. We don't have a department PLP because everybody is involved in somebody else's. We're embedding the strategies that we were teaching to just our students into the regular curriculum. And we have teachers that are co-teaching in the regular ed classrooms. So we're not in the cave anymore at all, and we're at the table, which is huge and a very proud moment for me because I feel like instead of it being take care of it, take care of your kids, they're our kids. And we all do feel that way, and I feel that way with my colleagues in all the disciplines. We take them on together, and that's a huge, huge shift. So I think going on to the new building, it's more about, it's not that we have our little department, we are embedded out into all the different disciplines, and that's really exciting.
Thank you.
I want to piggyback on that a little bit.
Yeah.
I had the privilege of co-teaching with Joanne Hartwina, and in a heterogeneously grouped class, we've got kids of all levels, and she made me such a better teacher. Just teaching me how to reach these kids, how to differentiate for these kids, how to make sure that they were able to access the curriculum, just phenomenal. And I think it works so much better that way because she understands what's going on in the classroom, the co-teacher does, and can just be so much more helpful and so much more focused and targeted on what's going on. It was great. And I think that's a great program.
It's an exciting time, it really is.
Mr. Samet.
How many of you have ever had the dream where you take a test but you haven't prepared for it? That's how I feel right. Anyway, to make just a little story, world language story. My daughter went through Morgan, graduated class of '98, and she loved French. She had Olga Masacchio for a teacher, for those of you who remember Olga. Loved Olga. And as a result, when she went on to college, she studied French. And her junior year, she went to Aix-en-Provence, the second half of her junior year, and that was gonna be her European experience. So she gets to Aix-en-Provence, and 3 days later, my wife and I get a telephone call. I have to come home. And my wife said, why do you have to come home? And she says, they all speak French here. I can't understand what they're saying. And so somehow my wife mollified her, and she stayed, and she had a great experience. And what that's leading up to is the fact that our kids are the greatest. Whether you're teaching English or you're teaching science or you're teaching math or any language or anything, we have the greatest kids here. For the most part, they're unpretentious, they're honest, they're just great. They'll do anything for you. I can't tell you how many times I've had kids say to me, I got your back. And they needed to. So, for whatever. Anyway, that's where it says, what are you most proud of? I'm most proud of teaching in Clinton for many years. And entrust your children to us. That's fantastic. We love teaching your children, and I especially love teaching your children math. I have a blast every day. That's the greatest thing. We have a bunch of new teachers in math. We've turned over our math department 50% in the last 2 years, and the newbie teachers are really, really good. You'll be happy to know. As soon as some of us old timers are gone, your kids will be in really, really good hands. I'm proud of the fact that we have technology in our classroom in terms of the smart board, which has revolutionized the teaching of mathematics as far as I'm concerned, along with the graphing calculator. We can teach problems that are unbelievable that you or I, well, maybe some of you who were here, look around, could have done, but from us older folks, solving some of the examples and real life problems that we solve today are unbelievable compared to what, the way we used to do things. It's just changed the teaching of mathematics for the better. How are we preparing our students for the future? More real life problems than you've ever seen before. We did a problem in honors pre-calc recently that dealt with the population of the world, where we could predict how many people are in the world, which is coming up over 7 billion, which is a lot of people. And due to the function in the graphing calculator, you can see how that's increasing. And we talked about the implications of what that's going to mean. And that takes you to social studies and all kinds of classes like that. We prepare our students for the future by giving them the basis they need to succeed when they graduate from Motter. Algebra 1, geometry, Algebra 2, and then pre-calc, and then if they started math with algebra in the 8th grade, they go on to calculus. We have problem stat, we have UConn problem stat, we have AP calculus, we have trig. We offer a very good potpourri of math classes here, and your kids do very, very well overall as a general rule. And you should be proud of that. Very, very well. The focus this year in the math department has been on writing geometry curriculum as it pertains to the Common Core, and by getting common unit assessments. In past years, perhaps if different teachers taught geometry, different teachers would give different tests, but everybody is on the same page, and we look at the same test. We all sit down and we collaborate, and we see how kids did on particular questions, so we can modify our delivery and figure out how best to get your child to learn what's necessary. That's an important part. What do we wish as educators that parents knew? I asked my math teachers that, and they all said how hard we work. I'm not sure, well, I think it's important to know that the kids solve problems today, and they work through things. They're 10 times brighter than we are. They can do things we never even dreamed about doing. And they just, that's the thing you should know. Your kids are smarter than you are. I know they're smarter than me, and they do a great, great job. That's about it. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
What's the difference between an AP class, a UConn class, and an honors class?
Good question. AP class is a class that is taken for credit, and you take, just more than credit, usually, depending on the class. And then you take an AP exam at the end, and if you get a certain grade on the AP exam, I believe it's a 3 or 4 or 5?
Yep, 3 is passing.
3. And if you do that, then every college just about in the United States will accept that as a course. And you don't have to pay for it. And with the price of college these days, that's a big thing. UConn course is a course where you take it under the auspices of a professor at UConn, like our UConn Providence Stat. They monitor they tell you the curriculum, they tell you what tests to give, they tell you how to grade them, they give you the final, they give you the midterm, they give you everything. And then if you get a certain grade on it, you get UConn credit, and then through UConn, you can transfer that grade to other colleges. And then honors classes are classes for, let's just say, more advanced students. And honors classes for the most part, are AP or UConn. And they're classes for which kids are willing to, for the most part, work really, 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 really hard and subject themselves to the stuff that we give them, which is pretty rigorous. I will tell you, the rigor that we have here is unbelievable. Anybody who tells you different is wrong. We challenge our kids every day, and I'll tell you, the honors kids are challenged unbelievably in this school.
Yes, they are.
We know it.
You know, I can't tell you how many kids I say, how come you're tired when you come in? And they say, I went to sleep at 12 o'clock last night. And I said, what, you went to sleep at 12 o'clock? And then they tell me why. And I listen to what teachers have given me. And, you know, our kids do very, very well. And that's it. I hope I answered your question. Yes, sir.
Just follow up on that. So the AP classes, if I got it correctly, you can get credit. UConn classes
It's only
for UConn, but you can transfer if you go there.
That's correct.
So what's the advantage of an honors class? Because it just seems like it's pride. Am I
Well,
missing
first
something?
of all, you have to, oh, you mean the advantage of an honors class or?
Yeah, why wouldn't somebody take an AP class, which sounds challenging, if you can use
Well,
that for
the
credit?
honors, the AP level is honors for AP, for that, like, for seniors, but you can take honors freshmen, honors sophomores that don't offer AP.
So AP is only seniors?
Well, juniors, some juniors and seniors, but there are classes that, like, there's no freshman English AP.
Correct, okay, I was just wondering, because for what you're saying, the
I'm sorry.
workload,
I'm sorry.
where's the reward? It sounds like that's
I'm
torture.
sorry.
Yeah, freshman, sophomores is
Got
just
it.
honors.
Got it.
For the most
So it
part,
preps you for the
AP
AP
and UConn are upper level classes, and like honors calculus is an AP class.
Something kind of different is if the student takes, like a couple times Laura had kids taking advanced Spanish before it was really AP, and they just chose to take the AP test. Kids can do that. There was a big thing in the news where a student just took AP Psych, took the test, never took the class in high school, passed it. Everyone was like, well, that's not right. That doesn't seem fair. But, you know, so AP is a little bit more flexible. I mean, we don't recommend doing that, but it's just, you know, it's different where it's more prescriptive with the UConn. You got to give this test this day, you know, within this time frame, and then it counts for UConn credit.
That other way doesn't sound very good for job security for you
Well,
guys. Taking the test without taking the class.
Yep.
Yeah, you
Thank
should
you.
probably, like if you have someone come in as a freshman, if they want to do AP, they should probably start out in honors.
Right, that's what I was getting at. So the honors is kind of a prepping
Right,
for
you do
that.
honors in ninth grade.
Looks good for college, and it helps with your, I mean, she's the expert on the grading, but it definitely helps. I mean, I think that schools would universally rather have a student get a B in honors than an A in CP, because it just shows that you've kind of bumped up the challenge, but not to say that there's anything wrong with an A in CP. But I think it looks pretty good. You should push yourself a little bit.
I'll tell you something about actually taking the class. Jeff probably knows the exact numbers, but we're in AP Euro, which is the class that Diana Rizzo teaches.
AP US.
AP US. Out of 14 kids that take the class, 12 kids got 5s, which is the highest you could get. So that's, and she does that every single year. Every single year. And those aren't, you know, that's not a child prodigy who just takes it's like 82nd pass. Your kids.
Mr. Cole, talk to us about STEM.
Okay, I'm going to start off actually with career and technical education.
All right.
And that's the grouping of family, consumer science, business, and technology education. And I'm really proud of the strides that we've made in curriculum in the recent years. We have a lot of academic integration. We always have, because students had to apply academics in the authentic activities. But now it's really embedded further. We're doing a lot of things with reading and writing, you know, as we are throughout the school. But the pathways have been developed as a skill building. So we have students in the intro classes, intro to engineering, intro to communications, and then there's also a sequence through business and family and consumer science. And what that does is it gives the student a foundation, and then they can choose a path. Now they can move between the paths as well, but they can also specialize in an area. And this is all modeled so that it builds into things like the junior portfolio. A student could have an interest in any of the technical areas and then really put together an awesome portfolio that they can speak to an employer or an admissions officer about, you know, for their future to represent themselves.
So what grade levels does that occur?
Well, our courses are 9 through 12, And we encourage freshmen and sophomore, of course, to take the intro classes, and then the capstone will be the junior and senior year. We also have a college career pathway where students can get college credit in the areas of family consumer science, culinary and child development, also accounting, business, and automotive. So the students do have an opportunity, as already has been said, for jumping ahead a little bit, if you will, in college. So I think the curriculum is really on track with what we need to do today. That does fit with the STEM model. The STEM model came from the governor's reports where the workforce was recognized as having some deficiency in communication and also in background. We've all heard the stories, or maybe you haven't, but most of us have heard how engineers and technicians at times don't communicate as well as they could because of the misunderstandings of their own perspectives. In other words, here's this engineer comes fresh out of college and really full of energy and ready to tell the technician how to run that program, and the technician's been doing it for 30 years, of course, and says, that's not going to work. And then, they both work very hard to have the knowledge they have, and then the ongoing conversation can quickly deteriorate. So what we do in STEM is we put the engineers and the technicians, future of course, together in the same scenario with these authentic activities, and they get a chance to solve problems, they do their research, and they see actually what's going to happen. And we just met last week. Gary Bear has a STEM physics class, and I have a design engineering class, and we had a hydraulic pneumatic activity that was really pretty cool. The STEM students put together some models that showed what happens when you compress a fluid, but then also what happens when you introduce air to that system. They also went through some other things about the size of the pistons, whether it's on the pressure end or on the actuating end or the receiving end of that pressure. Much like the brake system in a car, and there were some design engineering students that just happened to be doing a little bit of brake work on an automobile. So it fit together perfectly, and they actually had quite a dialogue after the presentation of what the authentic application is and what the theoretic application is. And Gary has an automotive background also, and he explained how brake fluid would be subjected with moisture and heat and the things that can happen to that and how that can change the system. We get into some discussions about the design of the braking system itself and how that has evolved over the years, how much better it is today with ABS. So we're able to tie a lot of concepts together. So the students do the research, and then they can piece together whatever it is, the perspective that they need, and they can present that, I hope, in the future in an interview situation where they can convince that person that's interviewing them that they have the skills and the experience, not just that they know the book work, but they actually have had the perspective of doing it and studying it and presenting it. Because the students actually do have to do a lot of research and presentations within the class. So it makes it a lot of fun, I think, for the students because it's authentic. They apply their academics sometimes without even knowing what they're doing. And often, I think, they surprise themselves. And it is a pleasure to watch. I mean, the things that I like about Morgan, as Mr. Samet said, the students are awesome. When we bring in guest speakers, from wherever, we went to a career day last year, and students got to run heavy equipment, and they got to see all sorts of different demonstrations. We had a very well-behaved group. When people come to Morgan, they almost always compliment, how the students have behaved and how they're attentive, and we're really proud of your students. Another thing I have a lot of fun with is when we have multiple solution type problems, students will come to me and they might ask, how do I do this, or how do I do that, or I'm stuck. And I don't like to give them the answer. And this is something that goes on in our department. It's not just me. But we don't want to give the student the answer. That's our opinion. That's maybe, a machinist expression would be there are 10 different solutions to the same problem. Well, I only have 1 of the 10 or 2 of the 10 or whatever. We want the students to come up with their solutions. So the things that we're teaching them today, I mean, we know the programs that we're teaching are soon going to be outdated. Much of the technology will soon be outdated. But if we teach them to think, we teach them to present themselves, we teach them to be comfortable in doing what they do, I think those are really the priceless skills that we want them to take on with them, and they will be successful. A lot of the things that are already said I could reiterate. I'm going to try to move along quickly. I do have one thing I was very proud of. Mrs. Hagnes got an email from the State Department of Education last week, Mr. Stephen Hope. Our career and technical education students were tested last year, and they're number 4 in the state of Connecticut. So that was really, really good. challenge and a tough act to follow, but we're up for it. We're going to continue to do what we do. But I think that says that we're doing something right. And of course, the students definitely did a lot of things right when they took that test. As far as the new school, I think we're looking forward to a new facility. We're going to have a video studio in the new school, that we don't have room for here. More of the STEM type activities, more VEX robotics things, more of the computer applications that are already done so well, like in Ted Enoch's classes with his computer applications. And business, of course, Mr. Riccitelli is doing a fantastic job. I mean, his accounting students took that test last year also, his first year in teaching, and they did awesome. So we have a very strong faculty staff in the career and technical education areas, and we do a lot of collaboration with the colleagues with the academic areas. Actually with everyone here. I mean, without guidance and without special services, we'd be lost. We get a big cross-section of the students, which makes it real world and interesting. And I don't want to keep rambling, but if you have any questions, I'd like to.
One, does every student take part in some component of tech ed?
There is a requirement where most of the students, I think, get involved with some area of tech ed, yes.
Okay. And from a business perspective, do you feel like we could offer or should consider offering additional business courses?
I've talked with Principal Hackness, and we are working on personal finance, increasing personal finance opportunities and things of that nature, yes.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Do you guys offer currently anything on entrepreneurship? You seem to focus a lot on problem solving. I'm just curious because that goes hand in hand.
We do. Yeah, some of the things that I mentioned in our activities, those are embedded throughout our department, throughout the career and tech ed. There is an entrepreneur class with Mr. Riccitelli. And actually, Mrs. Noonan does a lot of that with the child development as well, because students there need to know like the life skills. So there are things embedded throughout our areas that are somewhat common to the area.
Mya Rodowicz. Closes up strong.
Someone had to be last, and if you know me, it took all my strength not to just jump in before. Let me go, because I'm just a let's get it over with type of person. So I'll try to be pretty straight to the point. But again, if you know me, I also took lots of notes before I came, and also while we've all been talking. But what am I most proud of? So I'm the guidance chair, obviously, and I've been here 6 years. And what am I most proud of? About 5 or 6 weeks ago, I had a brand new teacher come down to the guidance office who was having trouble with some students' behavior and wanted to pick our brains. And when he saw how much was happening in the guidance office, it was during the school day, his comment to me was, wow, this is so much more than my guidance counselor did. That felt really good, because I know that we work very hard day to day because I'm living it, but to have someone just for a few moments be able to kind of glean that from the situation was just very encouraging. I made a whole list of honestly 5 things I'm proud of, but one that I added was our personal connections. As I sat here and listened, I'm looking down at my wrist at this little bracelet, which I found on my desk today. No note, no name. I know who it came from though, because I watched her make these. She's making them for children. She gave one to me for my 3-year-old daughter, and apparently she left one for me too. And it just reminded me that I was able to identify who that came from because I know my students. I know my families quite well, especially those who they're more involved, so they call a lot, which is great. The staff members, we've had more than one staff member in the few years that have been here crying in not only my office, but the other guidance counselor's office. We are a team, and it's a wonderful team.
She was very helpful.
and I've tried too in other people's offices. But we are a team. It's a great connection that we have. I think we've got very supportive administration. There's a lot of schools that say, give it to the guidance office. They don't do that. I feel they respect what we do, and they want to help us be as effective as possible. So those are just some briefly some things I'm proud of. How are we preparing students for the future? The day-to-day skills that we work with, organization, if they're having trouble with another student, a teacher, we talk about perception, communication. I mean, that happens all the time, but the biggest thing I think is something called the Student Success Plan. That's an initiative by the state. And really what it is an individualized plan for every single student in the whole school. And it can be paper, but we, back 4 years ago, decided we wanted to do it electronically. The district purchased a program called Naviance, and if you have high schoolers, even middle school is now getting this program. You've started to hear about it, and every year that goes by, we use it more and more, and we expand. But it really just helps students identify what they want to do, how they're going to do it, helps them identify who they are as a learner. We do learning styles inventories with this program. We do career interest inventories with this program. It's amazing. There's a lot more, but we have a great job shadowing program that's run in connection with the Clinton Youth and Family Services. We do junior planning nights. We do individual meetings with our juniors and our seniors, the families. And to put it into perspective for you, these meetings take an hour to an hour and a half. We have per student, and we have between 45 and 50 students. So that's juniors and seniors, and that's just the individual meetings that we do junior and senior year. So what is our focus for this year? It stems from the Student Success Plan. There are 3 domains: academic, career, and social emotional. We know that there's a lot of stuff that happens not only in the guidance office, but in the different classrooms. Health, PE, freshman course, everyone's kind of helping with these different domains. But in this day and age, if it's not written down, it doesn't exist. So we are focusing on actually creating documentation using our Naviance program. This year we're doing, I don't know if I already said this, academic. Next year we'll focus on either the career or social emotional. Over the next 3 years, make sure we have solid documentation for what we know is already happening. What am I excited about for the new school? I'm quite excited. The plan for the new school has a support staff suite in it, which would include the guidance counselors, but also the social worker and the school psychologist, and there's a group room, and it's right next to the library, and there's a conference room right in the same general area. And the reason this is important is because this provides better communication for all of the support staff. I had a student today, for example, who talked to me, needed to see Mrs. Tranquilli. I called up, she wasn't in her office, so I had to go through the main office. I found her conferencing with the school psychologist. If we were in the same suite, I wouldn't have had to waste 5 minutes of my time. I would have known exactly where she was and been able to access her. It also removes the ability for some students to bounce from one person to another. If we're all in the same area, they can't kind of fudge the truth a little and say, oh, no, I haven't seen Mrs. Tranquilli. I haven't seen Mrs. Thomas. We'll know. So I am very excited about that. The new technology in the new building is very important. Everything is online. The common application, if you have high schoolers, you've heard of it. There's been a lot of problems with the common application itself this year, and our tech department has been doing a great job, but the updated technology will just enhance and make their job easier, honestly. Collaboration, I kind of mentioned it. Student Success Plan, guidance has always been the go-to place, but with the Student Success Plan, we now will have more meetings and conferences to kind of pull everything together and help show a logical documentation, again, of what's already happening. So I think the Student Success Plans are just going to enhance the collaboration. And what do I wish parents knew? Mr. Samet kind of stole mine. So how hard we work, not just the guidance office. I have a list of, I think, 13 different things I identified. I'm not going to talk about all of them. But not just the guidance office, but how hard the staff works. There have been times that I have been here at 6:45, I generally get here at 7. 6:45, certain that I'm going to be the first one in the parking lot. And I have never been the first one in the parking lot. I even got here once at 6:30 for an early morning meeting, and I still was not the first one in the parking lot. Guidance, teachers, they come early, they stay late. I'll stay sometimes till 4:30, and again, there are still cars in the parking lot. Mr. Graham, I don't even know what time he goes home, but he's constantly here, and I think, I wish everyone knew that how hard the teachers work and the staff works for the kids, because they don't get paid extra for that time. They do it because they want help. And that was all.
Pretty amazing perspective, I gotta say. It's really neat to hear from you guys firsthand what you feel and what you're experiencing. Do we, a question for the audience, would you rather just ask questions of the panel, or would you rather break out into individual? Just ask questions of the panel and whoever wants to answer it. Okay? Then you need to come up with questions. There you go.
Hi, my name's Tammy. Glad you guys know me. I just wanted to say, like, thank you for you guys coming out. I have 2 high schoolers. These guys answer emails like all the time. Thank you. And I feel like you guys are family. So
That's
thanks.
really, really nice. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, people, if you've got Elliott kids and you're thinking, should I go to Morgan? Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Questions?
This one's from Mya. I guess you can get this started. You guys touched on the perception issue, and I want to start in guidance with the idea of how much time do you think you dedicate? There's really 2 hats, and you kind of balance between both of them. One is the guidance counselor, and which I think is more important, and then there's the career counselor. A kid who doesn't need guidance, they may have strong family support and a lot of love, and maybe on the other side a lot of pressure to do well in college. How much hand holding do you think you do on the college side as you're weaving it out? And how much time, especially this time of year when there's a lot of pressure on kids and there's early, how much time do you think you dedicate to the college, counselor versus the guidance counselor?
This year we have spent a lot of time doing the college piece, at least right now, for a couple of reasons. Number one, Common Application has been a nightmare. I have been on with the students, they'll give me their access codes, and we will literally go on and go through because there are so many problems. And the Common Application, it's not, they don't list a phone number that the kids or the families can call and say, help me. They kind of come to us.
What's a Common Application? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Common Application is one application that over 450 schools nationwide uses, which seems like a lot, but there are over 4,000 nationwide. However, the most popular schools actually use it. So we're seeing an increase in students using the Common Application. I have found that at least every one of my students are using it for at least one college, usually more, if they're lucky, all of them. It's complicated, there's a lot of paperwork, so that's causing us more time from the college side as well. Previously, we only wrote letters of recommendations if the students asked us to, but with the Common Application, it's required. So now we're writing about 40 to 50 letters of recommendation on top of the paperwork, on top of the problems.
We being guidance or we being teachers?
Guidance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think I'm getting the energy from you that you're understaffed, and I want you to know there's a lot of people in this room who want to push a budget to give you guys everything you need. And so that's the framework from everything I'm going to talk to you, ask you guys about tonight.
Well, we appreciate your support.
Is what's missing. That do we need dedicated college counselors and need dedicated guidance counselors to handle this so that everything's in order to service the kids? So tell me how understaffed you are with camera on and people and bosses.
I'd like to ask a question too, because my understanding there is not a dedicated career guidance counselor.
No, right, they do, yeah, they do both, you do both.
We do both.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the guidance, you get more for your money with a guidance counselor. And I know I'm a little biased, but we do both. We are increasing the career counseling we're doing using Naviance. It's a fantastic, not only college search engine, but career search engine. It has so much information.
Is that something a regular parent can go on? Like, if I don't have a student in the high school, can I go on and do something with Naviance for my student, whatever level they're at?
Yes and no. It's something we pay for, and we pay per student, but the middle school is now opening access. So if you have a middle schooler, as a parent, you will have access to it too. And that won't cost the district any extra. Using the freshman course, we now have gone, when I first started 6 years ago, we would go in once with the freshmen, explain credits, graduation, how that works. We now go in 4 times. And we do the learning styles inventory, which is connected to the careers. We do an about Morgan credits and follow-up. We do, with the sophomores, we previously went in once to do what's called the COPS interest inventory. Now we go in, right now we're going in twice, but we'd like to go in more. We do a career interest inventory. There's also another inventory in there, personality inventory, that we just haven't been able to find the time to work in. So,
You know what, just give me the ratio. How many kids does each guide counselor assign to at Morgan? Like, how many kids would you be responsible for?
we have about 200 each.
200?
Oh,
Yes.
oh,
200 to 1.
I have the amount of time we spend on different things, all broken out to further support more staff. And again, I think our administration is great in support for us, but if you do want your money's worth, I think the value is with the guidance counselor because they've got skills that a career counselor wouldn't necessarily have. And we have the programs that would enhance the career research pretty easily, provided we had the time to do it.
Now the parents get the Naviance, like they've done, I have a sophomore and never seen reports or anything?
We rolled it out to junior parents last year, and so we've been rolling it out to parents in their junior year, although all students 9 through 12 have the program. And if you want earlier access, which is something we might do in the future, but if you want it now, we can easily give you access. It's really just a couple of clicks of buttons.
I was gonna ask that, because I actually went on to it, because I'm a sophomore too, and, but I wouldn't even know, is that something too that you can have something that, is it easy enough for a parent once we can get on to navigate, or is that something that?
No, it's so easy. Okay. It's very, very easy. And next year, we're actually going to be using it to send electronic transcripts. Thank goodness we debated whether or not to do it this year. Thank goodness we didn't, because there is a local school who started it this year, but with the Common App problems, it has been a nightmare for them. So hopefully this year gives Common App a year to fix their issues, and then we'll open up Naviance. The nice thing about that is it saves money in postage. We pay for postage because we don't charge the kids to send their transcripts. Some high schools do, actually. They charge a couple of dollars per school.
Back to Peter's remarks, what would be a preferred ratio?
Preferred ratio.
That goes about
I mean,
what's a
honestly,
realistic ratio? Because we all know in here,
Yeah.
opposition to the budget. So what's a preferred ratio, ideal scenario, and then what's a realistic ratio? Because I'm assuming 200 to 1 is not very realistic.
200 to 1 is actually, if you look at some other schools' ratios, is still pretty good. However, they don't do necessarily what we do. I talked to the director of guidance at HK about reorganizing, how we could reorganize, because it's just overwhelming at this point. They don't do the personalized individual meetings. And I truly have, all of the guidance counselors have about a 90% of our juniors and senior families come to the meetings, because we send out personal invitations, here's the day, here's the time, and the ones who don't come, generally it's their second kid, they feel they've really got it under control.
I think you should tell them the number so I can get a teacher too in science. I don't want to run out of time. What's the number?
Sorry.
I want a science teacher in the budget too.
If you look at like a private school, Mercy has, I believe, about 100-to-1 ratio. That is really good, but they give services that, they also don't do scheduling. They don't register new students. There's a lot of things they don't do, and they have really good numbers, but it allows them to spend more time with their students. Realistic? Oh, gosh. I'm not that good. I'm not a math teacher. So, I mean.
So we're not going to put you on the spot.
Okay, I'm sorry.
A question for somebody other than Maya. Come on, really?
All right. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
You guys have mentioned you can come in and see. I don't know what the rules, I know right now we have the big school security. I mean, are parents really allowed to come into a classroom and watch a teacher and see what they're doing through that particular day, hour?
Mrs. Hackness?
I mean, we had the PTA come in and we provided the opportunity for them to come and observe. I think it's more of, letting folks know, in advance to kind of say, I'd like to come in and visit. We certainly allow that for students who are concerned about making the transition, and I encourage, for those of you who may have incoming freshmen, if they are, somewhat on the fence, that they come and we can shadow them with a student, and that's been very, very successful, that they get to sort of see what school is like in the course of the day. And again, the idea of parent involvement, we have Morgan Alliance, which I'm always open to put ideas on the table for things that people want to talk about, and certainly have an open door policy in terms of looking at teaching and learning. I'd like to be as transparent as we can possibly be, and I think that they feel the same way, everyone at the panel tonight.
So if a parent wants to come in and see a math teacher, they can do that? They can
Yeah,
see
I mean,
the
in
classroom.
terms of that point of discussion. I don't know how the child would feel, right?
Yeah. I have a question for language. My daughter was,
Right.
and they started that like advanced Spanish or Spanish 2, and there was a question whether or not when they get to high school. if
Our
they
pilot program?
Yeah.
Yes. We'll be having our first group come up next year,
Yeah.
and they will be placed into Spanish 3.
Okay.
So they will have Spanish 3, 4, 5, and 6. And it's our aim to teach the AP class as juniors. So the Spanish 6 will be conversation or culture or theater or short story.
Or they'll be teaching a section of Spanish too. They're your new teachers.
Would they be their own Spanish 3 class though, or is it going to be mixed with people that are taking Spanish 3?
We're currently working on that. But it is our aim through guidance to get all of those students that are in Elliott right now in the pilot program to transition together to the Spanish 3 program up here at Morgan.
And just a little plug for the language department. I've had students come back from Mercy and Xavier for various reasons. They just couldn't handle the commute. Honestly, they could not handle, even being in a private school, the rigor that we have is much greater than the private schools. It's true.
Anybody else?
Yes, well, there's a couple questions. I guess let's first talk about the rigor. I mean, I guess the definition of rigor, to me, it's not 30 problems. It's 5 good ones, 5 difficult ones, and hopefully we're spending time doing that. So I just want to say that. But it speaks to this, and you guys brought up this perception. And I kind of want to approach you from the standpoint of what can parents do to keep kids from leaking out to Xavier and Mercy when I'm very, my kids are going to go to Morgan. And I'm very confident that they will get as good, if not better, an education here because I know how you guys are trained in terms of teaching. So I would love your thoughts as to what you think the reason is. If you had an honest reason why you think that these parents have convinced themselves that they're better off going somewhere else. And I know this is maybe not a comfortable question for all of us, but it's something that I think is important that we address as a team here and turn the screws to change that. Yeah, great.
I don't want to be negative, because that's not who I am. So I think the people that have that attitude or have that way of thinking have never been in this building, and I invite them here to speak with us, to speak with our students, and their opinions will change like that.
We've had quite a few students that have gone from here to private schools too, and we've had feedback, and they're like, I mean, really, they're taking Spanish X here, and then they go there in the same level, and it's like a joke. So not always, and sometimes people think if you pay for things, it's better. You know, and I think that sports play a role. The parents that I go to the gym and talk to them, they say they want their kids to be world class at some sport, and I don't know what to say. I mean, we have awesome sports here, and there's other sports that are better at other places, but I don't, you know, I don't know. I haven't really heard people come here and say that it was easier here. It's usually the other way around, and it's more rigorous.
What I've heard a lot from parents is they don't want their kids to participate with the riffraff. In other words, they think if they send their kids to a private school, it's going to be a better quality, whatever you want to call it, of kid. And it is true that private schools can kick out whoever they want, and public schools can't. That's why it's called a public education. I will tell you, if you send your kid to Morgan, that will not be an issue at all. Absolutely not. We have great kids here. And you know, even the kids that one would consider to be a little rough around the edges are really great kids also. And everybody gets along.
And I guess we're preparing kids to be global citizens. That kind of diversity is important.
And Alan, I liked your point about them being unpretentious. That's important. It's not like that everywhere.
But,
Go ahead.
if I just make a personal note here, I'm a parent of 2 students who graduated from Morgan. My second son, James, who I know some of you had, went off to Nova. When he came back the first semester, he said Morgan was more difficult than Villanova was, so he was definitely very well prepared. He was in the honors program here, far over there, but the rigor here was awesome.
It's great.
Nice work still there. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry.
I was just going to say that when I went to high school, it was a big challenge. Our town didn't have the local high school, so we had to go out to the next town over. So that was intimidating as it was. My graduating 8th grade class was 34 kids. When my little brother graduated, it was about 14. So we went into a school where there were 200-300 kids in the class. And it was big, and it was intimidating, and it was crazy. I have to tell you, the teachers that had the biggest effect on me were people that loved their jobs, had a good sense of humor, and cared about the kids. And there's not one of you on this table that I don't feel that way about. So I got to tell you, I really appreciate you guys staying down.
I just want to say about the teachers here at Morgan. I'm a graduate of Morgan. I graduated in 1908. Just because there are 3 teachers on the panel who were teaching here when I went here, so that will tell you about it'll tell you about the dedication. I'm blessed that my 2 oldest daughters, who have recently graduated Morgan, were lucky enough to have one of my favorite teachers, Mr. Samet. I'm hoping I can convince him to stay for a couple more years until my 6th grader gets up here. But they are phenomenal teachers. My 2 oldest girls, 2 different kids. I mean, Mr. Samet can tell you, they're like night and day, complete opposites of each other. My oldest daughter, when she comes home on military leave, makes it a point that Morgan is her first stop to see Mr. Samet, to see Eric Bergman, to see, different teachers that meant something to her. I mean, it is her first stop when we pull into town from picking her up at the airport. So if if you don't have any kids at Morgan yet, I'm telling you, I left, I went to Vermont, I moved back, so my 2 daughters could go to Morgan.
More questions? Mary Jo?
I'll ask Mr. What is your perception, what do you think is the percentage of parents who are involved
that you know of that are very supportive of their kids' education and show up for open houses and things like that? Do you have a high rate here?
I mean, I would say that involved, would be a very high percentage, but maybe show up at open house. I don't know if I have, maybe, I don't even know. Do we know, Mrs. Agnes? 30%, 40%?
It's almost 40% that showed up for open house.
But involved, I mean, by if I call in the kinds of things that they're telling me that they're doing and they're concerned, and that is high. Not always, because sometimes you know about Morgan, so you don't come. You know the teachers, you've had older siblings go through, but I feel very supported when I call home. I feel very comfortable calling, and I do feel like we're on the same team, and like it's a community effort.
Can we talk a little bit more about the gap, if you will, or the perceived gap of the students that are not honor students getting a quality education here?
I don't know how to, all I can tell you is I've taught every level and most of the courses that I'm certified in science, and when I teach a college prep course or a career level course, I mean, I put every bit as much energy into teaching the class and connecting with the kids and the types of things that we do. One year I taught a career level class, well, Mrs. Deberardinis can tell you, I gave them all college prep. I gave all the tests for college prep, and they said, why do you do that? I say, because look at your scores. You can. And so I don't know, I can't speak from firsthand experience. I don't know why. Sometimes the parents will say, well, how come you're teaching the honors classes? Why don't you have college prep? It's just the way that it is. I've had all levels, and we've all had all levels because we're a small school. I just don't know where to go with that.
Actually, too, for instance, senior writing is a CP class, and it mirrors freshman English and college prep. It mirrors like English 101 at most colleges, and kids will come back and say, I'm doing the same sets of papers. I'm doing the definition paper, I'm doing the process paper, I'm doing this paper, I'm doing this paper, just as we did. And that's what I tell them when they begin the class is you can use these skills, things that we're doing, these skills that we're developing, and even the papers that we're using as the genesis for what you're going to do next year. So I mean, that's college level as a senior class for college prep.
Mr. Motter.
Yeah, I teach the honors philosophy course, which is a close reading of Plato's Republic, and I've taught it for years, and it's open to CP students and honors students and whoever's curious about Plato and philosophy. And we've had hundreds of students, since '02, go through that course. And European history is heterogeneous, and it's open to CP kids, and a lot of them take that challenge. So it's not like they don't have opportunities to really stretch themselves at Morgan.
For the AP class I teach for biology, I never turn away. We even opened up another section with the help of guidance. We didn't want to turn anybody away because there was like 40-something kids signed up for it. So we worked hard, and we wanted to include all the kids. And a lot of the kids didn't take honors biology as sophomores. They took college prep, but they want to be nurses. So many of the kids that I've had were in college prep track, but said, I want to be a nurse. I said, well, you got to be in AP biology. You got to push yourself, give it a shot. Right. And we've had great success with kids. So if they have an interest in something more than others and they're in a college prep track, there's no reason they couldn't move towards honors in one area and give it a shot. I love that. Give it a try.
We just need to send this video or put it on, like every parent needs to watch what we just heard tonight. Because that's the thing, people if they don't show up, whether it's back to school night or, which is really the time when, like you said, and I've noticed over the years, maybe 30%. I think that's even being generous.
Might be in some.
And those are the times too when you can hear this general information, you get more, as opposed to a parent-teacher conference. Yes, you want to show up and that's great, but it's more individual. This is the type of stuff that this is phenomenal. I mean, I try to show up for everything I'm learning.
And just so you guys know, you've got a mix of parents here going from elementary. This is really a K through 12 audience you have in front of you here. So it's not all just parents that have students at Morgan or are about to have students at Morgan. This goes all the way down. So this is more of what we need, this
absolutely
awareness and communication and you guys really tooting your horn, you know, saying what you're proud of and sharing that with us.
Educating us.
Just curious, how many parents who here have kids in Joel? That's insane. No, I'm serious. I mean, my kids are in Elliott and Pearson, and I think I'm being progressive. These guys got me beat. And this shows you what the parents really care about here. And again, I appreciate all you guys putting this together. This is, I had no idea. I mean, I knew it was a good school. We did a lot of research and everything. We lived in town 11 years. But, you know, it's that perception, what you guys have all talked about. It's scary out there. Perception is reality. That's why I teach my girls all the time. I'm like, you gotta watch that. So I appreciate you guys giving us the feedback, and I think it's something we as a community have to work on, because if there's this perception out there that this is no good where we're going, it doesn't matter how hard we work. So we've got to work and work with our neighbors as well.
I think to add to that, the students are very aware of that perception as well, and are very vocal about it, and are, you know, in many ways trying to communicate that out. We have an online journalism class, and they really want to create avenues for people to recognize what goes on just as strongly as we feel, they feel as well. And that's kind of, I think, a tribute to them looking at what they've gained and what they've learned from their experience here at Morgan.
Yeah, my son wants to go to, I mean, his top choice for colleges is Haverford College, where his dad graduated from. And his dad always claims that he got in for reasons of diversity. And he is saying to Eli, he says, if you're lucky enough to get in there, you are way more prepared than I was, especially in writing. He looks at the things that Eli produces and he's like, you got, you know, you are way more prepared.
I said the question because I graduated high school a long time ago, and it seemed like then if you wanted to go to college, you just like applied and then you went. And I've heard that that's not quite the same anymore, so it's more like a guidance question. And that's what I've heard ever since I lived in Clinton, is sort of like, if you really want your kid to go to a good school, you can't go to Morgan because you have to. And that's why they go to private schools, just because if you go to this school, then you can get into better colleges, you know. And so how hard is it to get into, like, say, a good college? And is it, like, if your kid's only like a BC student, I mean, do they have hope for college? Those are my Joel.
It has changed drastically. I mean, even when I went to school, graduated from high school, which wasn't that long ago, that's what I keep telling myself. I applied to 2 schools. One I knew I'd get into, one I knew I wouldn't, and that's exactly what happened. My friend went to UConn, and we joke today, and we say, you would not be going to UConn, and we're right. It's changed drastically. It's unpredictable. What they're looking for year to year changes, but what they are saying, a few years ago I saw a panel, Stanford was there, Harvard was there, Yale was not there. But what they talked about was the spark. It's no longer the well-rounded student, the athlete, the class president. They want to see that spark, whatever that is to you as a student. They have, the top schools have 1,500 number ones applying. And they're not going to accept all of them. If a number 4 or 5 or 6 shows that spark, they're more apt to go with them. And what the spark means is wherever their passion lies, their activities reflect it. So if they want to be a teacher, maybe they tutor for different subjects or their strongest subjects. Maybe they work at a daycare. Maybe they work during the summer at Park and Rec. You know, that spark is evident. If they want to be a nurse, do they take AP Bio, which really does prepare you very well? Did they volunteer at a hospital? If they want to be a physical therapist, physical therapy and nursing are some of the hardest programs to get into right now. The colleges want to know that that student did a job shadow or volunteered or somehow has some sort of connection. So that's what they're looking for. We have some amazing students this year. One of mine in particular, he is applying to quite a few Ivy League schools, and not only do I think he's going to get into a lot of them, but I think they're going to offer him money because he's so amazing. He's just that good, and you know who I'm talking about. Yes. And honestly, I don't release my letters of recommendation, but his letter, the closing paragraph, I've never written it before, but it said, I hope you choose him, but more, I hope he chooses you, because he's that special, and you will be that lucky if you get him. So, they're
And
great.
what Maya's saying is ties in exactly. We had a firm come in 2 years ago talking about what do colleges look for, and exactly what she's saying is exactly what they shared with us at that time.
They also shared what was interesting too, because we all think, oh, you know, Ivy Leagues. You want your child to go where it's fit for your child.
Right.
It doesn't have to be the name. Everyone, oh, I've always wanted to go to Harvard, so what if that's not the place for you? It's too big, it's too small, it's too. So really being comfortable and happy with finding the fit.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Rodowicz is wonderful. She'll meet and go over colleges again and again and again. So you've got your breach schools, which you're good at saying it, but she'll go over, you know, schools that the child will really be likely to get into, and then schools that are a reach that, yeah, you could try, but you never know. And my daughter went to Middlesex Hospital for a day and did like following, which was wonderful. So.
Other questions? Carrie?
Is there any kind of program or forum or anything that you guys hold with like the 8th grade parents? Because we're very concerned about like people going off to Xavier or people going to Mercy and just the perspective they have on that. And like you said, involving the community and letting everybody know how good you guys are, and you are really impressive when you talk and tell us all the things that you guys are doing here.
I think there are two things Carrie could probably tell you more about that. We go to the Elliott for a parents' night there, and Carrie holds an open house here for Elliott parents and students to come to school. So those are two avenues for that investigation, I think.
Do you think it would help to get them even before that? You know what I mean? Like, I know it's hard to have all these meetings and everything, but it just seems like.
Something we need to look into.
Unless it would be like a PR position or something, like put things in the paper, like you said, like Warmth or whatever it was in the state, or if those things get out, then like, because it always seems like the things that get out are like, test scores were lower, you know, Clinton's, like, you know, not as good as.
It's true. I think we almost need to get you guys out. You're the marketing arm of our high school.
You're now the show. Well, I think we will.
Are we done?
No, no, go ahead.
All right,
You
so
close us up here.
I guess the challenge to you guys would be this, that I think when you talk to a lot of educators and you say, what's the end game with technology? They'll talk about wanting a lab of mini iPads or something, or even iPads, and when you ask them what you're going to do with it, it's very limited in what their creative, notion will take them to do in the classroom. And all those things are going to be coming out. But with this new building, I guess that you don't have to answer this tonight, but I'd love for you to think about it, is what's the end game? Right now we give kids 7 textbooks, we give them a graphing calculator, yet, I teach in a district that's very stubborn with this, and I'm not sure that anybody I talk to can articulate an end game in terms of what the technology is going to be for a kid 5 years from now. Because right now I think we're going to look back at these days of all these textbooks and we'll laugh, and it'll be comical. And I just don't know if our minds are going to the point where they need to be when we go into this high school in two and a half years. So I would love to see that idea of how you guys see using that technology, especially if the community is going to support us giving it to you, the right way, the first time.
And I personally think too, also educating families, technology is, it allows us to do so much, but it's also very distracting. So in the last couple of weeks, I've met with a lot of students who have failed some classes, and I said, well, where do you write down your homework? Are you bringing stuff home? Where are you doing your homework? What kind of distractions do you have? And she was very refreshingly honest. Her cell phone, she needs to put it in the kitchen, off, so she can't hear it buzz. The computer that she has in her room, back even when I was in school, there was no Facebook, there was no texting, Facebook came when I was in college. So all of these things they're not realizing. They're trying to multitask and check their phone and you know, study for their test and check Facebook. They need to unplug for a little bit, a while, and these are new challenges that we didn't face. So,
On the other hand, online textbooks, because my son's
Yeah, because I was just going to say the opposite. I can see every kid with a tablet where they're reading through the chapters,
Well,
or going
not
over it,
even-
and they're highlighting it.
Not even in school, not even necessarily.
Oh, it's at home,
just for
online
homework.
access,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes,
Well, how do we
my
deal
daughter
with-
at the middle school
How
has
do
on.
we deal with a community
Elliot has
like we
online
have, where we
access.
have a percentage of affluence and a percentage of.
Yeah, but even the role of the textbook, I mean, I think these are all things you gotta think about what they're gonna look like in the new classrooms and in the building. Because we could do it quicker than later, we don't have to wait, we don't have to duct tape the technology together, the next best thing. You know, we can go to our end game, we may have an opportunity to do that. So I would just hope that, you know, we can articulate that.
So Peter, especially being on the building committee, you're fully aware of the nature of the infrastructure that we're embedding in the new high school to allow us to be able to be as flexible as possible with what it really will be able to be. You know, right now, even though textbook companies are putting more and more of their work online, you're still having to buy textbooks. You still have to buy the textbooks to get the technology. So that's going to change, certainly over the course of the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, when the print material component of that is going to be very different. But we don't know what that's going to look like.
Well,
So
let me
the
just say-
key is
Yeah.
having the infrastructure and then being able to be flexible enough to adapt to what those changing trends are as we go forward.
Yeah, and even beyond the textbook, I'd love for you guys to have the dialogue within your department to say, what, do we need that textbook? You know, do we have to slap the textbook down and say we covered everything because they have a textbook? Or we're gonna go beyond that? And I don't know the answer to that. I don't know what your departments are gonna do, but I think it's a great conversation that this is the ultimate time to have. So, thanks for staying so late.
Thank you very much for staying so late. Thank you very much. Anybody has any questions they'd like to ask individually, just take a minute and thank you very much. That was. It's always.